Yo, what's up guys? It's Noah here, and in today's video, we're going to be breaking down the NBA slate on Draftkings and Yahoo for Wednesday, January the 13th. We're going to cover Wednesday's 8-game slate position by position like we always do. Just before we do get started with the video, guys, as always, I'd appreciate it if you hit the like button down below. If you are new to the channel here, be sure to click that subscribe button as well. Click the notification bell so that way you do get notified every time I upload. You will also get notified every time I do go live. I don't think I'm going to be able to go live for today's slate. I don't think I'm going to be able to go live on Thursday either, but I do plan on having a live stream on Friday. I usually always try and stream, in the afternoon around 3:30, 4 o'clock Eastern time. So if you're free around that time, during the day, I do live stream, but like I said, I won't have any streams for the next 2 days, but I will be back on Friday. I'll still have videos up, just no live streams. But yeah, we'll take a look at Wednesday's 8-game slate. It was supposed to be a 10-gamer, but we've already had 2 games get postponed, so we're down to 8 games. We'll start off at point guard and take a look at the top of this position. Got Luka Doncic as the most expensive option at point guard, most expensive player, I believe, overall on the slate. He's $200 more than Giannis, so Luka, pretty good spot here against Charlotte. Definitely a matchup that Luka should have success in, but I don't know if this is going to be a slate where I go out of my way to play Luka. Kristaps Porzingis is probable for today, so he is expected to make his season debut. Obviously, with Porzingis back, that is going to hurt Luka a little bit. It's not going to completely kill Luka's value. He's still going to be an incredibly productive player, but he does lose a little bit of usage. His fantasy production overall takes a slight hit with Porzingis now back. So even with Porzingis, probably limited today, it's still going to affect Luka enough to where I don't think I want to pay $10,800 for him on this slate. I think there's some other studs that I would rather go to. Like, honestly, I think I'd rather play Giannis for a little bit cheaper. Kevin Durant looks really good, and $9,400, I like him a lot. With Kyrie Irving still out, you even got Julius Randle, who's, still really, in my opinion, still underpriced. A guy that has a massive upside, can pay off a $9,100 salary. Even AD is down to $9K, so Trae Young's under $9K, which is something we haven't seen in a very long time. There are just so many studs I like, so I don't think I'm going to be playing a ton of Luka today at $10,800. LeBron, this is a back-to-back for the Lakers, so we'll have to keep an eye on his status. I saw a report that he was expected to play. Anthony Davis, on the other hand, though, is questionable. I think AD most likely plays here, but it is a back-to-back, so that will be something to monitor. If we do get a scenario where Anthony Davis is out and LeBron plays, then LeBron will become a much more appealing pay-up option. LeBron hasn't really been a guy that I've played much this season, but if by some chance Anthony Davis is not able to go today, I would have a lot of interest in LeBron at $9,600. Damian Lillard, another guy that I haven't really played much this year. I like the matchup here against the Kings. This is definitely one of the more appealing games on the slate to target. 2 very fast-paced teams. I'm pretty sure both the Blazers and Kings are top 10 in pace so far this season, so the matchup's really good. Still don't know if Lillard's going to be a guy that I get a ton of exposure to today at $9,500. I do like Trae Young, though. I think Trae Young is definitely underpriced. He's been disappointing so far, and just as of late, we haven't really seen him go off for like any big games recently, at least like over his last few games. Now, against Philly last game, he could have had a way better game, but the game blew out. He only played 25 minutes. He was still really productive, though, in those 25 minutes, putting up 45 DraftKings points. The matchup here against the Suns is not ideal. The Suns, they're playing really good defense this year. They're playing at a slow pace. Still, though, I think $8,900 is too low of a price tag for Trae Young. I think that price makes him definitely an appealing option on this slate. I do like him quite a bit, like in the 8K range. But one guy I like a lot, De'Aaron Fox, he really stands out when you factor in price. I think SGA is a good option as well against the Lakers, but De'Aaron Fox just feels too cheap in that matchup against Portland. This is, like I said earlier, one of the more appealing games on the slate to target. Both Portland and Sacramento are top 10 in pace so far this season. I'm pretty sure this game right now does have the highest total on the slate by a good amount. This game it's got a 236 total, and the next highest is Atlanta Phoenix with 228. So this is definitely going to be a game that should be high scoring, should be competitive. We should get 36 to 38 minutes from De'Aaron Fox as long as this game is close. And we've seen, in games that are close, when he plays his full allotment of minutes, this is a guy that can easily put up over 40 DraftKings points. In a fast-paced game like this, his upside is through the roof. I like De'Aaron Fox a lot. I think he is definitely underpriced on both sides. He's too cheap on Yahoo as well, only $31 over there. Really like me some De'Aaron Fox tonight. He definitely stands out in that 7K range at point guard. LaMelo Ball, I do like as well. I talked about LaMelo Ball in my last video. Like, even though he's 7K now, 7,200 today, like, he is still kind of underpriced. This is a guy that when he's on the floor, he's going to be incredibly productive. He's a guy that can contribute in all categories. He only scored 8 points last game, and he still gave you 44 DraftKings points. Like, that's the kind of player that LaMelo Ball is going to be. He's going to be a guy that can rebound, he can get assists. He literally is going to be a threat to put up a triple-double basically every night. He can just do a little bit of everything. He can get defensive stats as well. I still like LaMelo quite a bit, even at 7,200. I still think there's plenty of upside for him at this price point. Like, when they're giving him 30-plus minutes, he's going to be a guy that regularly puts up over 40 DraftKings points just with how much he's able to contribute in all categories. Like, he shot 23% from the field last game, 33% from three, and he still put up 44 DK points. Like, you don't need LaMelo to drop, 8 threes to pay off his price. Like, he can get there on the rebounds and the assists alone. Plus, he chips in with defensive stats, just a guy that does a little bit of everything. So, still really like LaMelo Ball. I think Chris Paul is actually a good option as well. I haven't really played Chris Paul much at all this year. I did have a little bit of exposure to him on the last slate. I do like him quite a bit here against the Hawks. Really good matchup. Should be one of the more appealing games to target behind the Kings and Blazers game. Right now, this does have the second highest total on the slate. Although Phoenix, although they're playing really slow this year, the Hawks on the other hand, are a very fast-paced team. So this is a big-time pace-up spot for the Suns going up against the Hawks. We should get like 35, 36 minutes from Chris Paul as long as this game is close. He's been like kind of I don't want to say the backup point guard, but with Cameron Payne out, you're seeing them stagger Chris Paul and Devin Booker's minutes so that one of those two guys will be on the floor at all times. That is beneficial to both Booker and Paul, and we've kind of seen that over their last few games. We've seen some good games from Chris Paul. We've seen Devin Booker finally be able to get things going. Cameron Payne being out actually is really beneficial for Paul and Booker. I believe Payne's doubtful today, so I do like Chris Paul quite a bit at 7,200. But scrolling down in the 6K range, I still think Devontae Graham's price point is appealing. I think most games we're going to get 30-plus DK points from Graham, if not more than that. He's still 6,200. He can still easily pay off this price point, so I don't mind him in that mid-range as well. Eric Bledsoe I do like a lot, though. So we've already got news that Lonzo Ball is out for the Pelicans today. Eric Bledsoe is questionable on the other hand, so this will be something to monitor. For now, I'm just going to assume that Bledsoe plays, but if he's out, obviously we can make some changes. But assuming Bledsoe does play, he looks like a really appealing option. 5,800 on DraftKings and pretty affordable on Yahoo as well. You got Bledsoe coming in at $19. So if you take a look at Bledsoe this season with Lonzo Ball off the floor, he has actually been a much better player, like in terms of fantasy production. He's played 117 minutes this season with Lonzo off the floor, has averaged 1.12 fantasy points per minute, has a 23% usage rate, 35.3% assist percentage, which leads the team. He sees a big spike just with Lonzo off. I mean, he's going to be the primary ball handler with Lonzo off the floor. Sees his usage rate spike 5%, goes from averaging like 0.9 fantasy points to nearly let me see if I can do the math real quick in my head. Yeah, he goes from averaging like 0.85 fantasy points to 1.12. So he's basically a fantasy point per minute player with Lonzo off the floor, and he should play probably 34, 36 minutes if this game is close against the Clippers. Maybe this has a little bit of a blowout because the Clippers are a really good team, but I think the Pelicans can hang with them. I think this game can stay close, and if we're going to get 34, 35 minutes from Eric Bledsoe with no Lonzo Ball, with Bledsoe being the primary point guard, I like him a lot at 5,800. The price tag was not adjusted for Lonzo being out today, so he really stands out on both sides. This is a 10 o'clock game, so I don't know if we'll have news on Bledsoe before lock. We should get an update sometime in the afternoon, but we might not have official word on him, whether he's in or out before lock, which could make it a bit risky. But if, after lock, if we get news Bledsoe's out, you can make swaps. There's, we have two 10 o'clock games, so you can make swaps. You can, swap to other guys in the other game or even in this game. But for now, I'm just going to assume that Bledsoe plays. And if that's the case, he is a really, really good option. He does stand out quite a bit on both sides. But like in the 5K range, I think that's what really stands out there. Bledsoe definitely stands out most in the 5K range. Now, talking about value plays at point guard, if we're looking to go cheap here, I mean, there's not really much value that stands out. Like, Trey Burke may start for Dallas just with all their guys out today. Like, Josh Richardson's still out. Jalen Brunson is still out. DFS and Kleber are both out. So maybe you see them start Trey Burke at shooting guard. He came off the bench last game and actually had a really good game off the bench. His price is $4,900 now, so he's nowhere near as appealing as he was on the last slate. But I guess if he does wind up starting, he's at least someone worth considering. But still, he would not be like a top option for me. There's just too many other guys I'd rather go to on this slate. But yeah, I think that's probably it for point guard. No like cheap values here besides one guy. So I do want to talk about Nickeil Alexander-Walker. He is 3,100 on DraftKings. I like him a lot as a value play. I think it's possible that he winds up starting here if Lonzo's out. I think if Bledsoe's out as well, then, NAW will definitely start. But they could elect to, move Bledsoe down to point guard and then start NAW at shooting guard. It's possible they do that today with Lonzo out. Even if he comes off the bench, I still think he sees pretty big minutes. He's already been playing, 14, 16 minutes a night off the bench. He's been a regular guy they use in the rotation. Now with no Lonzo, I think we're likely going to see at least like mid-20s, if not high 20s in minutes off the bench or, in the starting lineup. If he were to start, I would be a lot more confident that he sees like over 30 minutes. Regardless, though, I like NAW a lot on both sides. He's 3,100 on DraftKings. He's minimum salary on Yahoo. This is a guy that when he gets minutes, he can be very productive. You look at his numbers this season with Lonzo off the floor. He's played 63 minutes with Lonzo off, has a 27.7% usage rate, averages over a fantasy point per minute. And if he's going to play close to 30 minutes today, which is definitely likely, I do like him a lot as a value. He's one of the standout, kind of punt values on this slate. Looks really, really good. I would like him a lot more if he's starting, but even if he doesn't, I still think he's a top value play overall. But yeah, let's go ahead and move on to shooting guard now. Talk about the shooting guard position. So here at the top, not much stands out. Like Paul George, I think is fine at 9,300. CJ McCollum, I don't mind either. Really good matchup there against the Kings, fast-paced game. But I don't think either one of those guys are like top pay-up options for me on this slate. Devin Booker, though, I do have a good amount of interest in. I wish he was a little bit cheaper, but he's finally been starting to play well. 40-plus DK points in 2 straight games. Really good matchup here against the Hawks. Should be a good pace-up spot for the Suns. Talked about it earlier. With Cameron Payne out, we're seeing the minutes staggered for Chris Paul and Booker. So that way you're having Booker play some time with Paul off the floor, and then you're having Paul play some time with Booker off the floor. Whenever Paul's off the floor, whenever Booker gets, let's say, 8, 10, 12 minutes with Paul off the floor in this game, he should be very productive in that time, should be the primary ball handler. We should see his assist numbers see a little bit of a spike whenever Paul's off. I do like him a good amount at 8,300. On DraftKings, his price is kind of high still. I guess I'm not as interested there, but Yahoo, I think that's where Devin Booker looks really good. He's only $32. I think that's a pretty appealing price tag. Like, you got CJ McCollum for $4 more. You got Paul George for $7 more. Those two guys are obviously appealing as well, but I do like Booker quite a bit at $32 on Yahoo. I think he's going to go overlooked on this slate for sure. He's really yet to put up like a big, massive 50-point game, but he definitely has that still in him, in my opinion. This is a guy that still has a lot of upside, and we could definitely see him spike a big game against this pretty bad Hawks team. So I do like Booker if I'm paying up at shooting guard. Like RJ Barrett, I don't mind either against Brooklyn. Barrett's just going to play a ton of minutes. He's fine at 7,100. Still not like a core option for me though. But like other guys in the 6K range, not much really stands out here. Scrolling down, if we're looking in the 5K range, again, not much stands out. Like DiVincenzo, I'm not the biggest fan of. Austin Rivers, he started last game with Bullock out, and he played 38 minutes. Still only had 21 DraftKings points. Rivers, I don't think is going to be that productive on a point-per-minute basis. Bullock, I don't know if we have an update yet on Bullock. I think he might just be questionable. Oh, he's doubtful. So, yeah, he's doubtful. He's not expected to play. If Rivers starts again, he probably gets big minutes, so he could be someone worth considering at 5,300. But again, you have Eric Bledsoe you can play, and I would much rather play Bledsoe, assuming he's good to go. So Rivers is fine, but I would rather get up to Bledsoe if I can. Like Hamidou Diallo, he had 2 really big games of over 40 points, and then he came back down to earth on Tuesday in their game against the Spurs. I think he had 24 DraftKings points in 21 minutes. People chase the Hamidou Diallo, his big games, and he's just not a guy that's going to put up 40-plus DK points. We saw that Tuesday night. I'm not really going to be on Diallo today. Unless, by some chance, George Hill gets ruled out. I could see a scenario where Hill's out because this is a back-to-back. I think Hill did miss their last game that was a back-to-back. I don't think he's played on back-to-backs this year. I may be wrong there, but I think they had a back-to-back earlier this season, and George Hill did not play on the second half. So there is a chance that George Hill does not play today. If he were to be out, then I would have more interest in Diallo. But obviously that's news we don't really have right now, so we'll just kind of have to wait and see there. Cam Reddish, he only played 24 minutes last game, which was kind of surprising given how many guys are out for the Hawks right now. No Bogdan, no Gallo. I thought his minutes would be a little bit more secure. The blowout obviously was one of the reasons why, but I think if this game's close, we should get about 30 minutes from Reddish. He did start last game. He probably will start again here, assuming Bogdan remains out. I think Bogdan's going to be out for a couple more games, I believe. They said he'll be sidelined for several weeks. So we should continue to see Reddish start. At 5K, he's someone you can look to if you're going a little bit cheaper at shooting guard. But if we are looking for guys under 5K here, cheap plays, obviously in AW, you can play at shooting guard. I mean, there's really not any other standout shooting guard plays. Like Bruce Brown, he got the start at point guard on Tuesday's game. They brought Karis LeVert off the bench, but I don't think Bruce Brown really did anything. I may be wrong, but let me check real quick. Even though he started, I still don't think he really did anything. He actually had a really big game. So he played 25 minutes, had 34 fantasy points. So I was definitely wrong there. So Bruce Brown had a big game Tuesday in the starting lineup. Kyrie is still out. So I guess if Bruce Brown does start, he is viable for sure. 3,300. It was good to see him play well Tuesday. I had no idea that he had such a big game. Even when he was announced a starter, I wasn't very confident in him. I didn't play him in any lineups, but I guess it was good to see them give him 26 minutes. If he starts again, I have to assume he probably gets about 25, 26 minutes. 3,300. Bruce Brown would actually be a decent value play on this slate if he does start again. So I guess I want to mention him. Obviously, I think I'd prefer NAW, but Bruce Brown is definitely viable. But yeah, let's go ahead and move on to small forward. So it's small forward at the top here. Like Kawhi at 9,700, fine to go to, but Kawhi really hasn't been a guy I've paid up for much this year. Same with LeBron. Obviously, LeBron would be more appealing if Anthony Davis were to sit. We'll just have to wait and see there. Now, Brandon Ingram, I do have interest in with Lonzo out. I don't know if that helps Ingram too much, but I think it should overall. We should see Ingram maybe get a slight bump in his assist numbers with Lonzo off the floor. I mean, Lonzo is a guy that will take a good amount of shots. He'll take 10, 12 shots. So some of that usage, that opportunity is going to have to go somewhere else. And Ingram should be the primary just ball-dominant player. Obviously Bledsoe's going to have the ball in his hands a ton, but we should see Ingram just kind of be the guy for this Pelicans team like he's been all season. Going to be a usage monster. 8,500 on this slate. He's not like a core option for me, but definitely is a guy I would like to pay up for at small forward depending on how much value we get on the slate. Right now there actually looks like some decent value. NAW 3,100, Bruce Brown 3,300. Like we have some good cheap options. They look solid, so it should be pretty easy to pay up at small forward if you want to go that route. I think Ingram is a guy I would try and get up to 8,500 if I possibly can, but still not like a core option for me on this slate. At least I don't think so right now. Other guys though, like Gordon Hayward, always has the upside. We've kind of seen that, like 43 DK points last game, can always pop off for random 50-point games. He has the upside in the Charlotte offense. He's a guy that can do a little bit of everything, can contribute in all categories. Don't mind him at 7,800. Would probably try and get up to Brandon Ingram if I can, but Hayward's definitely in play. Scrolling down, I think Darius Bazley at 5,900 is a fine option to go to. If by some chance Anthony Davis does not play today, Kyle Kuzma could be viable. Josh Hart, I think, should benefit with Lonzo out. They could just run different lineups here, play Bledsoe at point guard, and then move everybody down. So maybe that should allow like Josh Hart to get more minutes. I mean, Hart was already getting really good minutes off the bench, about 26, 28 minutes a night. Normally, Josh Hart's not a guy that I look to play, but with Lonzo out, that's one less body in the rotation. So Josh Hart should benefit. Probably gets about 30 minutes today at 5,400. Somewhat viable on the slate. Still not a core play for me, but definitely a guy I would at least have a little bit of exposure to. He is really cheap on Yahoo, so if you play on Yahoo, I think Josh Hart does look a lot more appealing there. But guys under 5K, really no punt values I see at small forward. Potentially THT if AD winds up out, if Davis does not play, but really I think that's probably it for small forward. So let's go ahead and move on to the power forward position. We'll talk about power forward at the top here. Got Giannis at 10,600, KD at 9,400, Julius Randle 9,100, AD coming in at 9K. Those are just some of the top options we have at power forward. Giannis, I think, once again, clearly one of the better studs to pay up for on this slate. He's definitely been a little more inconsistent this year. We've seen some floor games from Giannis. We've seen him go for 40, 45 DK points at times. But this is still a guy that, even on his bad nights, should give you at least 40 DK points. I mean, his floor is just so high. He's such a productive player when he's on the floor that even in like blowouts, even in games where he only plays maybe 26, 28 minutes, he can still give you 50 Draftkings points and not, completely tank your lineup. Giannis is always a guy I never mind paying up for. On this slate, we'll have to see how it shakes out, but right now I don't think he's going to be like a guy I jam into lineups. I think I'd rather play KD for cheaper, But Giannis is definitely viable. I think I do prefer Giannis over Luka if I just had to choose one of those two guys over 10K. But Kevin Durant, he's the stud option that really stands out on this slate. 9,400 on DraftKings, coming in pretty affordable on Yahoo as well. At $45. He's $3 less than AD, $6 less than Giannis. Definitely like that price tag on Kevin Durant on Yahoo. So we've already gotten word that even though this is a back-to-back for the Nets, that Kevin Durant is expected to play, and we've already gotten word that Kyrie Irving is going to remain out. And we've seen just the last two games with Kyrie Irving out. It's been the Kevin Durant show. He's played big minutes. Tuesday night against the Nuggets, he had a really big game once again. Played 36 minutes, had 57 fantasy points. He nearly had a triple-double, 34 points, 9 rebounds, 13 assists. In their game on I think that was on Monday, on the 10th against OKC, Kyrie Irving was out that game. You got 37 minutes from Kevin Durant, 54 fantasy points, 36, 11, and 4. Like, he's just going to be a fantasy monster when Kyrie Irving's off the floor. He's going to be a guy that probably gives you 30-plus points. He's going to give you close to double-digit rebounds. He can get you assists as well. Like, Durant has legit triple-double upside any night, and especially when Irving's off the floor. At $45 on Yahoo, $9,400 on DraftKings. Like, I said it in Tuesday's video that Durant, when Kyrie Irving is out, Durant should be like $10,500. He should be priced up there with Giannis and Luka. We're still getting a huge discount on him. He's one of my top plays today. Once again, I had a ton of exposure to him on Tuesday's slate, and I'm going to be very heavy on Kevin Durant once again. So love him on this slate. Still think he's way too cheap on both sites. But Julius Randle is a guy that I do like as well. So last slate, I got absolutely burned by Julius Randle. He was a guy that I took a big stand on. I was very overweight on him. He came in like 10% owned, and I had him in like 40, 50% of my lineup, somewhere around there. Was very overweight on Randle on the last slate, and it did not work out. He only played 30 minutes, which is the lowest amount of minutes that he has played all season, I believe. Yeah, 30 minutes was the lowest he's played all season. Only had 24 DraftKings points, by far his worst game of the season. I would expect Randle to bounce back in a pretty big way here. I like the matchup against Brooklyn. This game should be, this is a pretty good matchup for the Knicks going up against Brooklyn. Brooklyn does play at a pretty fast pace. I'm pretty sure they're third or fourth in pace so far this season. Nice pace-up spot here for the Knicks. Brooklyn definitely a team you can attack down low. I do like Julius Randle a lot today. I like Mitchell Robinson as well. I think both those guys look very appealing. Randle's prices started to come down. It came down to 9,100 on DK. He looks like a really strong play. Definitely, if I can, I want to try and get him in lineups with Kevin Durant. Those are two guys that I like a ton from this game. We'll talk about Mitchell Robinson as well, who I like a lot as well. But Julius Randle, even though he disappointed last game, I would expect a big bounce-back performance from him. I like him a ton on this slate. Obviously, can't put him ahead of Kevin Durant, but he would be right up there with KD in terms of like favorite pay-up options on this slate. Now, AD is questionable. This will be something to monitor. I'm assuming that he plays, but, it is a back-to-back, so I guess that is worth monitoring. Even though AD is so affordable today at 9K, even though his price tags come way down, I still think I would rather play Kevin Durant. I'd rather play Julius Randle. Even if AD plays, I don't have a ton of interest in him, just because the other guys priced around him. Porzingis, someone to talk about. Now, in his first game this season, in his debut, I expect him to be limited. I have no idea how many minutes he plays. He could play 28, he could play 20, he could play 15. Like, this is just something that we'll have to wait and see on. My best guess is that we get like 20, 22 minutes from Porzingis. Obviously, on DraftKings, he is not in play, 8,400. But I do want to mention him on Yahoo. He is actually pretty affordable over there. He's $23 at center. He's actually cheaper than guys like Ayton, Nurkic, Holmes. I do like Porzingis quite a bit on Yahoo if by some chance he can play like 22, 24 minutes. Like, if we get 24 minutes from Porzingis, he can easily give you 35, 40 fantasy points in 23 minutes. And at $23 on Yahoo, that's a really good, outing from that price point. Like, at $23, I'm looking for about 35 to 40 fantasy points. And I think Porzingis can definitely give us that if he does play, low 20s to mid 20s in minutes. We'll have to wait and see, but if we can get enough minutes from Porzingis, I think he is viable on Yahoo at $23. On DraftKings, though, I have no interest in him at $8,400 unless we get word that he's got no minutes limit. Then I'd be a lot more interested, but I don't expect that to happen. This is his first game back from injury. He is probably going to be limited. But other power forwards like Zion, his prices come way down. I think he's appealing at $9,300 with that or $7,300 with that price down. John Collins, I do like at $7K as well. His prices also started to come down along with Trae Young. Other power forwards like Baisley, DeAndre Hunter, I think those are fine options in the mid range. I mean, not much else stands out in the 5K range. If we're looking for value at power forward, There's really no cheap values that I love except one guy that we'll talk about in a second. I mean, I think Carmelo Anthony could benefit today if Nurkic winds up out. If Nurkic is out, we could see them run a lot of small ball lineups with Melo at center. We saw Melo have a really big game against Toronto after Nurkic got hurt. He played 35 minutes and had 43 DraftKings points. They will definitely play Melo at center, possibly in this matchup. So if Nurkic winds up out, I think that's actually very beneficial for Carmelo, and he would become a very good value play at 4,200. I would have a lot of interest in him if Nurkic does not play. But the one value I like a lot at power forward is James Johnson, 3,900 on DraftKings. We already know that Maxi Kleber and Dorian Finney-Smith are both out, so that's gonna free up a lot of wing minutes, a lot of forward minutes. Obviously, with Porzingis coming back, Porzingis will most likely be starting at center today. But I am expecting James Johnson to start at power forward. I think he takes Maxi's spot in the starting lineup since Maxi is out. And Johnson is someone that when he gets minutes, he can be very productive. We saw him put up 27 DK points in 26 minutes last game off the bench. If he starts, I would have to assume that he gets around 30 minutes. And at 3,900 in a matchup against the Hornets, a really good matchup. I do like James Johnson quite a bit as a value play. No Maxi, no DFS. That just frees up a lot of power forward minutes that should be soaked up by James Johnson. So he's a very strong value as well. Right now, under 4K, James Johnson, NAW, Bruce Brown, those look like some of the top punt values on the slate right now as of Tuesday night. But let's go ahead and move on to center. We'll talk about the center position real quick before we end the video. So you got Karl-Anthony Towns at 9,800. He's listed as questionable for this game. If Towns winds up playing, I actually have a good amount of interest in him because we saw in his first game back from injury, he played 37 minutes. There was no minutes restriction on him, even though they said there was going to be. He still played 37 minutes, and he had 54 DraftKings points. Like, although Cat's only played 3 games this year, like, this is a dude that is very productive when he's on the floor. He's a great scorer. He can rebound. He can block shots. He can get you a few assists as well. Just a dude that can absolutely stuff the stat sheet, and when he's healthy, he should probably not be 9,800. He should be like 10,200. I think we're still getting a little bit of a discount on Towns. So if he is playing and if there's no minutes restriction, I actually like Cat quite a bit as a pay-up option at center. I think he definitely looks like a strong play at 9,800. I obviously like Julius Randle as well, who we talked about. DeAndre Ayton, he's been absolutely terrible this year, but it's a great matchup for him against the Hawks. You know, I mentioned it in my last video, like if there was ever a spot for Ayton to finally put up a big game, I thought it would have been last game against the Wizards, but he was terrible. Only had 18 DraftKings points in 25 minutes. With him struggling so bad lately, nobody's going to play DeAndre Ayton today, so I think this is a guy you can definitely look to in tournaments. There is still upside. A price point, you know, given his price point is where it's at and it's coming down, I do like buying low on DeAndre Ayton. I do have some interest in him today. Joe Val as well, I think it's a little bit too cheap for the upside that he gives on a nightly basis. He's someone that I like at 6,900. But really the guy I think I have the most interest in the mid-range, Mitchell Robinson coming in at 5,800. Absolutely love this spot for Mitchell Robinson against Brooklyn. He's one of my favorite center plays right now. 5,800 on DK, only $21 on Yahoo. You guys know I like to target centers against Brooklyn. Brooklyn has always struggled defensively against bigs. We saw Jokic have a monster game against them on Tuesday night. We've seen centers in the past this year have big games against Brooklyn. Like Jared Allen, he's just not a good defender. He's a guy that you can definitely beat down low. Robinson, I think, you know, last year when he played Brooklyn, he had some really big games against them. I like Robinson a lot here. The minutes have been secure this year, like with Thibodeau as the coach. Like he is running their starters into the ground. You're seeing big minutes for basically all the starters. Mitchell Robinson's basically playing 32 to 34 minutes as long as it's a close game and he's not in foul trouble. This is a guy that, you know, his production this season on a point per minute basis hasn't been as high, but still a guy that can give you a fantasy point per minute, can score, can rebound, can block shots. He's a guy that can literally give you, you know, 15 points, 16 rebounds, and 5 block shots. Like, he's totally got that in his range of outcomes. I like him a lot here. I think he's going to go overlooked on this slate. Mitchell Robinson definitely stands out at center. One of my favorite options and a great matchup against Brooklyn. I do like him quite a bit in that 5K range. Nurkic is an injury worth monitoring. He is questionable. If he were to be out, that would greatly benefit a guy like Enes Kanter. Enes Kanter would become an awesome play as well. Kanter is a guy that we know when he gets minutes, he can be incredibly productive. And I would assume that if Nurkic is out, that you see Enes Kanter start, probably play like 22 to 24 minutes. I don't know if they would give him like 35 minutes. Like, that's not going to happen, but should get at least like 20 to 22 minutes. And he's a guy that can, you know, put up 30-plus DraftKings points, even in 20 to 22 minutes. He's a very productive player when he does get minutes. He's a great scorer, a great rebounder. He's terrible on the defensive end, but in terms of fantasy upside, this is a guy that can give you a big double-double in 20 to 22 minutes. So I do like Enes Kanter a lot on this slate. If Nurkic winds up out, he will be another strong value play worth considering. But I think that's really it for center. Like with Porzingis back, I don't really want to go to Willie Cauley-Stein. You know, even though Dwight Powell's out today, Willie Cauley-Stein is hard to trust now that Porzingis is back. I think that's probably it for center, guys. I think we broke everything down at this position, so I hope you guys did enjoy the video. I do appreciate you watching. If you enjoyed, hit that like button down below before you do get out of here. Hit that subscribe button as well. Be sure to click the notification bell so that way you do get notified every time I upload. You also get notified every time I do go live. But yeah, good luck tonight, guys. Be sure to check out the Patreon content link down below. If you really enjoy these videos, if you want to see more that I have to offer, I do have a lot of additional content on Patreon, so you can check that out. Link down below if you are interested. But good luck tonight, guys. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.